7.5 million artists are showing their art on Etsy Saatchi Fine Art, which makes it simply too saturated. That's why the best artists are doing something revolutionarily different. Let's take a look. In 1980, Keith Haring understood that the traditional pathways were simply way too saturated, but he needed to figure out how to market his art. Now, he had one problem. He didn't have any money, he didn't know anybody in the art world, and frankly, his skill level was not really that great. He was making these simplistic one-line doodles on a black surface, and so he didn't felt like his art was good enough to approach the galleries in the first place. And so here's the plan that he came up with. He went to the subway stations in New York, and then he would hang his own art in the empty advertisement spots in those subway stations. Now, those subway stations would see 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 passengers a day, and so even if it would be removed a couple of hours later, he would still reach thousands of people. And considering that his art only takes 30 seconds or 1 minute to make, he could very easily hang it in 10 subway stations every day, reaching more than 10,000 people a day. And it didn't take long before he got some recognition, galleries started to show interest, and the rest is history. He became one of the best, biggest artists of the 20th century. Now, there's one problem with the Keith Haring strategy, and that's the reason I believe it's a BS strategy, and that is that it's simply illegal to do that. You cannot just randomly hang your work in a subway station. And so the strategy that I'm going to explain is obviously going to be better, but also completely illegal. But there's one thing about the Keith Haring strategy that we have to point out. If you look at those 7.5 million artists that are showing on online galleries, most of them, the majority, are getting about 10 views every single month. And so those artists would actually be way better off taking their art and putting it in a subway station for a couple of hours, and in those couple of hours they would get more views than they get in an entire year. And so that's very interesting. That's something to think about. But the strategy that I'm going to explain you is simply more powerful than the Keith Haring strategy, and by extension more powerful than selling your art on online saturated marketplaces. Now, be warned, it's absolutely not a sexy strategy. In fact, it's one of the most boring strategies you've ever heard. But if you do the math, it's extremely effective. In fact, for most artists, it's going to be more profitable and cost you way less than some of the most powerful independent art fairs in the world, and nobody is doing it. Now, in order to understand how powerful this strategy is, let's take a look at the best independent art fair in the world. I've shown on that art fair myself, and so I can speak from experience. So the other art fair is getting about 100,000 visitors across 7 cities. I assume that's about 10,000 to 14,000 per city. It's definitely not going to be more than that. Now, 14,000 people per fair. Remember that number, because the strategy that I'm about to show you is going to get you 102 times more eyeballs for way less money. Now, how much do you pay to stand on the other art fair? You will pay thousands of dollars in booth fees, and then you also have to take into account transportation, logistics, accommodation, all of that stuff. And so it's going to be very expensive. Now, I think this is a good fair. I think this is a good option. I think this is a valid strategy depending on how you deploy this strategy for yourself. I have nothing bad to say about the other art fair, but the strategy that will follow is simply much better for beginner artists. And so what's the strategy that I'm talking about? Well, here's what you're going to do. You are going to go to doctors and make them an offer. You tell them that you will hang your art in their waiting room for free at no cost to them, that you will have to do no work whatsoever. And you tell them that the art is following particular color schemes that have been proven by science to relieve stress, to calm the mind down, to have some kind of healing properties. Very well, art that is perfect for a waiting room. And you tell them that if the art sells, they will get 30% commission, $2,000. And so this is kind of a no-brainer for them. They don't have to do anything. Their waiting room becomes more beautiful, and they also make a couple of $1,000s in the best case scenario. Now, if this offer for some reason is not enticing enough and you're not really that confident about it, you could also just add something to it. Let's say you have, for example, 5,000 followers on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, and these are local followers. You could say, well, I'm going to share this on my profile, which will drive some traffic out your business, give you some extra customers, and that type of marketing is valued at a couple of $100s probably. And so that is an added thing that you could add. Now, I personally don't recommend this, because if you just make this offer often enough to enough doctors will say yes for sure, but something to think about. Now, before we go on, let's talk about another way you can sell your art, namely your own website. That is where the sponsor of today's video comes in, Pixpy. Pixpy is an easy to use all-in-one website builder specifically designed for artists to showcase and sell their work effortlessly. No coding required. Their easy templates allow artists of any age to build a custom website. Start selling your art today with Pixpy. Link in the description for a 50% discount on annual plans with the code Dries50. And let's get back to the video. Now you might be thinking by yourself, what a low-level game, going to doctors and hanging your art that deserves to be hung in a museum or a top-level gallery, hanging it in a waiting room. Why in the hell would I do that? Well, let's break it down and let's look at the numbers. Doctors will see an average of 20 to 30 patients a day. And so what does that mean? Well, it means that they will see 7,300 patients a year that will be in that waiting room for an average of 20 to 30 minutes. And so if you would hang your art in not just one waiting room, but 100 waiting rooms of local doctors, you would get 730,000 20-minute long views per year for free. Now, as amazing as online galleries might be or social media might be, the majority of artists are not getting 730,000 20-minute long views per year for free. And how long would it take you to get that? 30 days. In 30 days you can not only contact 100 doctors or 1,000 doctors to get 100, but also transport your art and hang it inside of those waiting rooms. Now, this strategy might not sound sexy to you. It might even be a little bit beneath your art, but here's the thing. Everybody else is doing sexy, and sometimes the gains are just in doing the opposite of what everybody else is doing. Now, the best part of this all is that after that 1-year deal or 2-year deal or whatever you agreed upon with those doctors will have fallen in love with your work. And so if you take the work back, it became part of their practice, part of their habit, part of their life, and they will want to buy it from you for a $3,000 price point or $4,000 or $5,000. And here's the thing, $3,000 for a doctor is simply not that much money. And so they will be happy to buy that stuff. And so can you sell at the end of that year 1 or 2 artworks to those doctors? Yes. Is that $6,000? Yes. Can you then on top of that also sell 1 to 3 artworks to 1 or 3 of those 730,000 people? Most definitely. Is that $15,000 that you make in the first year of your art practice? Yes, absolutely. Is that more than I made in the first year of my art practice? Yes, absolutely. Is that more than the majority of artists make in the first year? Absolutely. Is that more than the far majority of artists make on online galleries? You heard me? Absolutely, of course. This is a valid strategy. And you know what the actual best part of this whole strategy is? You only need one person to change your entire career, to change your entire life. You only need one collector, one dealer, one artist to be in that waiting room, fall in love with your work, and your entire career transforms. And gallerists do get sick. Everybody gets sick. Everybody will end up in that waiting room at some point in their lives. Now, it's very hard to see the beauty and power of this strategy. The first time I heard about it was 10 years ago when my mom told me. My mom made a deal, not with a doctor but with a lawyer, to hang my work there for free, everything that I just explained, and I refused it because I couldn't see it. I couldn't see the power of it. And so as a beginner artist, it's so easy to put gallerists on a pedestal, to put all of these traditional pathways on a pedestal when the hidden strategies can be so powerful. And the second time I came across this strategy was a couple of months ago when Wes Hosey put it in one of the comment sections on a video, and I got reminded of it, and I saw the beauty of it. I saw the power of it. So thank you, Wes, for reminding me. Now, a couple of minutes ago we talked about art fairs, and the reality is that those strategies are also valid. As a matter of fact, you could very well, if you use the right strategies, make 5-figure sums on those art fairs, those independent art fairs. But here's the thing. Number one, it's going to be harder. Number two, it's going to be more risky because you're investing thousands of dollars, and the majority of those people on those fairs are definitely making way less than the strategy that I just explained. And so sure, the upside might be greater, but for less people. If you're interested in these strategies, those best practices, I've made a free art fair PDF guide more than 20 pages long where I share the best practices as well as my own personal experience strategies. It's free, link in the description. Now, if you're not convinced about the strategy and you desperately want to show your art on those online galleries and sell on those online galleries, then that is obviously absolutely possible. There are strategies that will make that work, that will make that successful, but you have to make sure that you understand them and not do what everybody else is doing on those platforms. I've made a video about that, how to sell your paintings on Saatchi art fast in 3 easy steps. Link in the description and the end screen. That said, get the hell out of here.